Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us this Friday. I'm Jeanelle Slade.
And I'm Russ Riesinger. A Laurel Murder victim positively identified today, but tonight still no suspects in custody.
Sheriff Mike Linder says the medical examiner determined the body found east of Laurel Wednesday night is that of missing woman 57-year-old Lori Bray. Now, although another step forward, that information and no suspect in custody is not easing the minds of some Laurel residents.
Now, Bray was last seen leaving the Cedar Ridge Casino on South First Avenue in Laurel at 12:30 Tuesday morning. Her vehicle was found later that morning at the intersection of Buffalo Trail Road and Laurel Airport Road near the Yellowstone National Cemetery. Her body then discovered Wednesday night about 2 miles away near the intersection of Yard Office Road and Ridge Drive.
Now, we've heard from several people in the community concerned there could be a killer walking the streets of Laurel.
Sheriff Linder tells Q2 if detectives had enough evidence, they would have someone in custody, but regardless, that doesn't mean that you could ever let your guard down. Linder says whether the killer is a local or someone passing through town, Laurel has had its fair share of crime, and you always need to remain vigilant of your surroundings.
When you leave work, leave with someone else or have someone watch you get to your car. Now, because this is an ongoing investigation, authorities are not releasing how Bray died.
The sheriff also tells us sometimes publicly releasing the cause of death brings forward false leads and confessions from people who are not tied to the crime.
Well, a man has been transported to the hospital with serious injuries after being struck by a car tonight in Billings.
All happening at 19th Street West and Lewis Avenue around 8:45 tonight. The GMC SUV was heading north on 19th. After stopping at the stop sign, the driver went across. A pedestrian darted in front of the car, according to Sergeant Clyde Reed.
Now, the vehicle was not going very fast, and the driver could not see the man walking. Reed says an ambulance took the man to the hospital with serious injuries.
All right, we want to turn to weather now. And Bob, if you're heading up the Beartooth Highway this weekend, might still be able to get there, but you could also run into some snow.
Yeah, it's a weird deal. Let me show you what's happening out there right now. The Beartooth Pass, they have decided to open it today. It's going to close again permanently for the season, I think, in about another 6 to 7 days. But they opened it today. This road was clear. But now look at this. Tonight we've got some scattered snow showers moving in up there in the Beartooth Pass. And not only that, it's a lot of snow moving in. Check this out. Here's what we have now. National Weather Service has issued a winter weather advisory for the Beartooths and the Bighorn Mountains. In the Beartooths, we could see 5 to 10 inches of snow with 20 to 35 mile-per-hour winds. That means we could see a lot of blowing and drifting snow in addition to that. Same thing over in the Bighorn Mountains, probably more like 4 to 8 inches of snow in that area. Then after that, we get another batch of moisture moving in on Saturday. We'll tell you what that can mean for you coming up in a few more minutes.
All right, thanks, Bob. Well, First Lady Melania Trump didn't show up in Yellowstone National Park today. That's because her visit was canceled at the last minute. The Secret Service tells MTN News the weather is to blame. A snowstorm rolled into the park about 9 a.m. It didn't stop the First Lady's motorcade from going to Grand Teton National Park, where she appeared this morning, but it did threaten to ground her plane in West Yellowstone. The First Lady planned to encourage school children to spend more time in the outdoors and visit America's national parks, all part of her Be Best initiative.
State and federal officials toured the forest area north of Butte today in an effort to better manage forest land. The U.S. Forest Service and the State Department of Natural Resources and Conservation met near Elk Park in Jefferson County. They're promoting a project where the state DNRC manages timber sales on federal land. The project, a combined effort to remove beetle-killed trees and help make the forest safer in case of wildfires.
We can fight fire by doing good timber harvest and healthy forest investments because, you know, thick stands of dead lodgepole are almost impossible to put firefighters into, and actually we don't want to risk their lives in these types of stands.
The 10,000 acres in Elk Park is one of several project areas the two agencies are working together on across the state.
Well, some good news for the city of Williston, North Dakota. As we told you last night, the city is set to open its brand new airport. Williston Basin International takes flight in just 6 days.
In fact, next week's opening marks the first new major airport in the U.S. since Denver International opened its gates back in 1995. Q2's Jay Cohn brings us a closer look.
The XWA project in Williston has been under construction since 2016. The $275 million facility sits on 1,600 acres, 10 miles northwest of Williston. As the nearby Bakken oil fields boomed, the city's old airport found itself overwhelmed. In fact, when it was remodeled in 2005, the terminal was designed to handle up to 10,000 passenger boardings a year. But by 2014, that number had topped 120,000, more than 10 times the projections. The new facility features its own brewery restaurant, executive lounges for both passengers and crews, and a private terminal designed specifically for flights handling oil labor crew changes. And the new wider, longer runways can also accommodate larger planes, a big improvement over the smaller regional jets that serve Williston today.
We're looking forward to the next 20 or 30 years of air service possibly expanding.
As Billings embarks on remodeling the terminal at Logan Field, Aviation Director Kevin Plone says he's been keeping a watchful eye on the Williston project.
You got to build all that infrastructure underneath it and get all the lighting and all that, so it's an expensive deal. And then to build a brand new terminal from scratch and then trying to move everybody over, that's a challenge, absolutely a challenge. I'm glad it's them and not me.
Plone has his hands full here, expanding the Billings concourse with the Magic City's future aviation growth in mind.
This concourse now, instead of having the 5 gates that we have now, we'll have 8. And the design is built so that you could just add on to the ends very easily and get up to at least 12 gates. So we will be well staged for the future growth of Billings, no matter if it's slow or fast.
In Billings, I'm Jay Cohn reporting for MTN News.
And whether or not the new Williston Airport might result in more flights to and from Billings, Plone says that is a possibility, but one that will be driven by passenger demand.
As for the Billings Airport project, the first phase got underway last week, which involves moving the current deli and building a temporary grate underneath the B concourse. Now, that entire $55 million project is due for completion by mid-2023.
Montana Governor Steve Bullock still struggling to pick up ground in the polls and in his presidential campaign coffers. According to CNN, Bullock raised nearly $2.3 million in the third fundraising quarter of this year, far down the list of Democrats, but not at the bottom by any means. The campaign also improved its fundraising numbers from the second quarter and doubled its number of individual contributions. Bullock has vowed to stay in the race for now, with 4 months to go until the Iowa caucus. Well, Bernie Sanders narrowly edged Elizabeth Warren to lead the field for fundraising in the third quarter, with Pete Buttigieg third and Joe Biden fourth.
Students at the Billings Career Center can now take their education to the next level. That's thanks to a new piece of medical equipment. St. Vincent Healthcare presented a $10,000 check on behalf of the Nellis Family Continuing Education Endowment today to help buy a high-fidelity simulated mannequin for the biomedical education program. Well, the mannequin, named Hal, is intended to encourage work-based learning through his physiological responses and hands-on lessons. Hal simulates breathing, cardiac and respiratory functions, response to medication, and is a tool for testing vital signs.
Gives the students an opportunity to think about how we talk about patients, how we talk to patients, how we consider the patient's confidentiality and privacy and anxieties and fears, as well as their health and wellness and their illness. And so it's really tuned them in to think about how to be more attentive to caring and compassion and patient needs.
Now, those at the Career Center credit the entire Billings Medical Corridor for the medical equipment and supplies for its very own operating room, and now for the high-fidelity mannequin.
Students, faculty, and community members gathered at Carroll College today for the annual Blessing of the Animals.
The yearly tradition coincides with the Feast of St. Francis, patron saint of animals. More than 20 dogs, a cat, and 3 fish were present for today's blessing. Carroll College is home to the first anthrozoology undergraduate program in the nation, where students study human-animal interactions.
There are currently more than 100 students enrolled, and there are more than 20 dogs in the program. Many of those dogs will be in need of forever homes this spring.
And in Wyoming, the Highway Patrol's longest-serving canine officer is trading in a life of fighting crime to fighting for a spot on the couch instead.
Hunter started his career back in 2010 in the narcotics unit. During those years, he helped seize more than 1,000 pounds of marijuana, nearly 5 pounds of meth, and was deployed more than 400 times in the seizures of illegal drugs.
Hunter will now enjoy retirement with his most recent trooper, Scott Nielsen.
For more than a decade, Steep World here in Billings has been home of the Montana Bouldering Championships.
And for the first time this Saturday at the business's new West End location, the competition will be a sanctioned USA Climbing event. Partnering with USA Climbing adds a youth competition to this event that is a qualifier for regionals and divisionals.
Owner Jim Rott says people travel from all over for this special climbing day and says it's just a day of healthy competition with a lot of good energy and a fantastic atmosphere.
Coming from Sheridan is one of the places that is outside of the state of Montana, but we have participants from Missoula, from Bozeman, from Helena, from Great Falls. There's a lot of energy at these events for sure. Kids, it's great camaraderie. This individualized sports tend to have really good camaraderie. That even the fiercest rivals will be hooting and hollering for each other at this event, and that's one of the really fun things about it.
Youth climbing runs from 10 a.m. to 1 tomorrow, and adult finals start at 6:30.
Again, that's at the new Steep World location in West Billings.
Up next on tonight's 10 o'clock news, the streets of Missoula are about to be flooded with tradition, memories, and football frenzy. We're going to check out how homecoming helps the community.
And in sports tonight, rivalry night on the high school football field. Scott shows us what happens between West and Senior, Laurel and Central.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Breen. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.